As one of the numbered editions, the Standard H Defender watch box serves as a salute to our military, as well as a nod to one of my absolute favorite vehicles of all time, the Land Rover Defender. Tireless energy has gone into the transformation of a .50 caliber ammo can into a luxurious product. The box's 8-watch capacity is perfect for those with smaller collections or those traveling with a subset of a larger group. The Defender watch box willfully serves as your watch's go-to companion for attending watch meetups or carrying a select arsenal on a trip. Though the name of the watch box derives from a Land Rover, the details stem from more than one vehicle in a true Standard H fashion. The inside houses 2 wooden trays handmade by artisans in Florence, Italy from poplar wood and then elegantly lined in the same Alcantara suede found in GT-level Porsches and 99% of modern supercars. This plush detail is the exact type of accommodation your timepieces deserve. The padded diamond pattern under the box's lid is a nod to the seat designs found in Mercedes G-Wagons as well as the Koenigsegg Agera R. Also inside is a bespoke aluminum owner's plate displaying your name and box number. Included is a certificate of authenticity I personally fill out and hand emboss with the Standard H logo. The subtle shift logo badge on the outside is made from cast white bronze in the age-old lost wax tradition of jewelry making, then antiqued and hand-polished. Each Defender watch box is made to order and placed in a wooden crate that I build and paint in my garage, which will no doubt be a fun event for you to open with the included miniature pry bar. Available in 3 iterations, the watch box comes in signature Standard H Garage Collection Stealth, which is black with gray interior for a sleek modern aesthetic, OD Green with cognac interior for a true military look, and Omakase where no 2 purchases are the same. You and I will exchange an email regarding your personal preferences, which will aid in the completion of your Defender watch box and crate as a departure from the normal offering. As an added bonus, 10% of each OD Green purchase is donated to Heart and Armor, which is a foundation focusing on veteran health. As always, thank you so much for supporting Standard H. Today's guest is a salesman who has sold everything from phone contracts to cashmere. Davide Barancini is the owner of Ghiaia, a menswear label based in Pasadena, California, but as you can imagine, the road from Italy to California wasn't a straight shot. And it was for this reason I was delighted to sit down with him to hear him share his story. Ghiaia is producing some of the best sweaters I've come across in recent memory, and once you hear the labels for which Davide has worked, you'll soon understand why. Brunello Cucinelli being the standout for sure. I truly enjoyed this conversation due to the absolute exposure of Davide's passion. You can really hear how important clothing is, and not at all for superficial reasons, rather how it makes one feel and the emotional impact clothing has on an individual. He's an Italian and a man of style, as redundant as that may seem, and he has an affinity for cars and watches, making Davide a prime suspect for this show. We're becoming good friends, so I'm super happy he was willing to take part, so I hope you enjoy it as well. I'm your host, Wesley Smith, and you're listening to the Standard H Podcast. Yeah, today welcomes Davide Barancini from Ghiaia, Cashmere.
Thank you for having me.
Sorry?
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for taking part. Your name would give it away, but you're Italian and Sicilian.
That's right.
So tell me a little bit about childhood. What did your parents do in Sicily?
Funny enough, my parents did anything related to what I do today in life, but I think that
same
could be applied to a lot of people. I was born on the east side of the island, volcano side, in a city called Catania. And I grew up in this little village between the mountain and the sea. Okay. Sicily has Etna. The volcano Etna is the biggest, the tallest, the highest volcano in Europe, and one of the most active in the world.
So is that a volcano that you can still go on hikes and
kind
of walk up?
Yeah, you can still go on hikes, preferably when it's not erupting.
Right. Sure.
Thank God. Only I say that because what happens is that usually it gets very close,
right,
to places. So back in the days before everything was built around the volcano, the eruption destroyed the city where I was born, probably like around 5 to 7 times.
Wow.
So Catania is so fascinating because, of course, you have the whole history, Barocco, and the town was very rich. And then you have like all the signs of the eruption destruction.
Yeah.
With the town built in different times. So post phases.
Right, because of 5 or 7 times,
Right.
you said.
So
yeah.
you see the town being a collage of rebuilding, basically.
Oh, wow. So there's different styles of architecture and that kind of thing? Yeah.
Correct.
Wow.
And before Italy was unified, which happened relatively less than 200 years ago.
Okay.
Il Regno delle Due Sicilie, all the south was a very rich part of Italy.
Did you find that you gravitated more towards the sea type of activities, or were
That's
you up in the mountains?
That's a good question. I will give you a very fast explanation to explain what Sicily and Sicilians are. I'm reading a fantastic book that you should check it out called Sicilians.
Okay.
By this writer and journalist from Rome that writes about Sicilians. It's very. I will send you a link on a separate conversation.
Yeah, sure.
Sicilians were fishermen.
Mm-hmm.
So people were living on the coast, and everything coming from the coast was a good thing.
Right.
Turkey, Spain, Normandy, all the people gravitating around Sicily left there something.
Right.
So the island has incredible food, incredible fruits. And we got it from North Africa. We are in the middle of the Mediterranean.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
We got it from everywhere. Compared to what it could be another Isolano, like the Sardinians people,
Right.
instead they were farmers.
Mm.
So they live in the middle of the island, and they were afraid that stuff coming from the coast wasn't good. Enemies came from the coast for them. So they
interesting.
didn't live on the coast. They developed as farmers. So their attitude ultimately will eventually turn in being a little bit less open.
Sure.
Than what Sicilians are. We are very, very welcoming. Very,
Yeah.
very, very welcoming. There is a funny joke about God talking to St. Peter, and St. Pietro said to God, "God, what are you going to put in there, Lord?" He said, "Here in the middle, after building the booth, I'm going to put my most beautiful stones. It's going to be an island with the best food, the best fruits, the best countryside, facing the ocean. It's going to be beautiful." And St. Pietro said to him, "That's wonderful, Lord. And who is going to live in there?" And he said, "Unfortunately, I got only the Sicilians left." That's, I think, is a nice joke to describe us as the Sicilians. But yeah, I grew up in this happy little place. Sicily itself is a quite large island.
Yeah.
Today, you can drive it from coast to coast in probably less than 5 hours. And I was the last of 6. My father is a retired mechanic. He built the elevators.
Oh, no way.
And my mother was a mother full time.
Right, stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
With 6 kids, yeah.
Exactly.
I would imagine.
So I grew up in in a sense, when you are the last of, you have siblings?
I have one older brother, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so when you are the last or the youngest,
We're the best looking.
on top of that, you kinda have the path already. You see the path. Life is a little bit easier for you.
Yeah, that's true.
In a
You kind of
sense.
have a guide.
Yeah.
Kinda.
So I navigate through that path. I will try to recap it to you. I was dreaming to be a soccer player, and I play soccer for basically all my life. I signed my first contract when I was probably too old, way too late. I was 17.
Oh, so you played professionally?
For a couple of years, and I stopped for issue with my legs and issue with people in general.
Okay.
And
A lot of red
started-
cards for you?
It was just, Sicily in a sense, it's very close to Italy, but it's very isolated as well.
Right.
So
Understood. Yeah.
we don't have those many structures. And quite honestly, I don't like it. Finding excuses. Probably I wasn't as good as I wanted to be,
Mm-hmm.
as consistent as I wanted to be.
So if you signed your contract at 17,
Yes.
when did you realize
stopped
that
at
maybe
19.
you 19? Okay, so,
So
two
in Sicily,
years.
we have a C series, which are two leagues, C1 and C2, now unified in Serie C, and then B series, and then A series. So I was on the youth team of a B series when I was 16. Broke my arm, ended up, I got transferred to a city close to Catania, which is Acireale, which was owned by the same guy. And if you are in C series at 17, you might be running late
Right.
to arrive in A series.
Okay.
Good thing is that a decent A series player probably make a couple of minutes a year versus a guy playing in B series or in C series being a little bit harder to have a longer career or thinking about future.
Right.
But you don't think about that. When you're young, you want to just kick the ball.
Yeah, you just want to play.
But I mentioned that because probably that is probably that is my dream, as a kid. So stopping dreaming, I started working and I started selling things for some reason. I sold between 19 and 21, probably everything I could sell.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What was kind of the range? What was the wide spectrum?
I started selling phone contracts.
Phone contracts.
Yeah, I was selling phone contracts door by door.
So cellular phone.
Contract for cellular or home phone or Wi-Fi, internet or stuff like that.
Wow.
That was my first job. They would pay me 30 euro per contract.
Okay.
And
so you could have some good days then.
I actually did, because I figured out, you see, that's the difference between, you just say something that is so instantly, you say to me, that's great.
Yeah.
And this country, America, is built on that. But if you are in Sicily, where people dream about a salary, a paycheck.
Right, of course.
Average salary in Italy today is probably $1,200 a month. Right. So my father built this family with probably $30,000 a year.
Right.
And I hate to talk about money, but it's to give you perspective.
Yeah, of course. Sadly, money is important.
Correct. And as a father, the biggest advice he could have given to me, find a job. They give you a paycheck.
Right.
So you can start going on your own. And being a freelance salesman or phone contract wasn't really in his book. So it's like, so you're going to make 30 euro per contract. Where you're going to take this contract? How you're going to do it? So I pretty much realized that I couldn't do everywhere. On a square, on a shopping center, on the beach.
Yeah, of course.
So I started selling phone contract to everybody.
So was it that geographical realization that you were excited about, or were you more excited about, like, I get to earn whatever I make? You know what I mean? Like, I can make my own money.
Totally. I was excited about that. And I'm not going to lie to you. Probably I had the sense of rebellion. I didn't want to be a mechanic.
You didn't want to do what your dad told you to do.
Yeah.
Right.
And my dad is the old guy that you actually see in my brand. The face of my brand, that's my father.
That's your father. Oh, that's wonderful.
So he has this very mark face,
A mechanic.
Tied to the hands.
Yeah.
Yeah, this zip up his jumpsuit every day.
Yeah, that's cool.
So, yeah, and when I went on my own doing that, I was looking for something that, in sport, if you are a great athlete, it's undeniable.
Right. It's natural.
Everybody
usually.
see it. And you see, nobody can say that, that athlete is showing to the world. You score points or you score a goal and you win trophies, that defines you. In a professional career, it's a little bit harder because it's very, a singer might be good for you, but
Right, subjective.
not good for me.
Yeah, of course.
So selling was a good. You would give me I had a good indicator.
Like a
of-
measuring stick as to how well you're doing. Yeah, yeah,
so
of
if
course.
you do a lot of contracts, you're a great salesman.
Yeah,
And long story short, I bought my first car with that job,
nice.
and it was a Mini Cooper.
Mini
I would never
Cooper.
forget. It was a Mini Cooper.
What
2002.
what
Mini
year?
Cooper. 2002 Mini Cooper.
2002. So the new body style, obviously.
No, actually, it was the old one still. No, sorry, not the the
Not
new.
not
compared
one
to-
from like the 60s.
Correct.
Right. You got a modern one.
And the first series had the issue with the. You would have flipped it. I don't know if you remember. The first series had serious issue with the ABS and traction and stuff like that. So I bought it the first series.
Was that pre BMW? Because I think BMW.
It was
ended-
pre BMW.
yeah.
It was the
buying them
first
later.
model pre BMW. I mean, between the old one and the new one. It became BMW right away.
Right.
And I think they fixed it.
Yeah.
Gas mileage was savage. And my father wanted me to buy this Fiat, this diesel engine Fiat.
Okay.
And anyway, I don't know why I
So
went that
after
far.
you started selling phone
Yeah.
contracts.
After that, I sold. I worked for a little company with a friend of mine of AC. So
like
AC
HVAC
system.
units and air
Yeah,
conditioning
for
and things
for
like that?
houses, and I would. It was a very small company. It was the
Right.
two of us plus two.
But you're in the
guys.
middle of the Mediterranean, so that's
I am chilling.
highly necessary.
Exactly. And I would install myself, helping installing it and managing a little bit the company. And then I ended up with every job took me to another job. So I sold a phone contract to a guy that hired me to sell lamps, Illuminotecnica, to sell design lamps.
Right. Okay.
After that, I sold ministerial certification. So in every form of activity you have in Italy, business activity, either is a movie theater or anything else, you have to have a certification.
Right.
I was the guy selling you the certification. It was a 2 years contract. So I would go to architects or, I don't know, movie theater or whatever it was,
Right.
restaurants,
Right.
and selling you this certification. And then I realized that I wasn't really happy with what I was doing.
Mm.
So I left the island and I went to Milan.
Oh wow.
And
Totally
that was-
different.
And that was probably the biggest step I did.
Yeah.
That was the biggest step I did.
Now, did you move to Milan for a job, or did
Yes,
you
I'm-
say
I'm-
I'll figure it out when
No,
I get there?
in a sense, I did. I had a little, Milan still today is the place if you're
Yeah.
in Italy. Actually, before COVID, with Milano Expo, this international event that Face Milano in between 2016 and 2017, Milano was the place to be. Beautiful
Right.
city. I suffer as a Sicilian guy moving there,
Sure.
but I left Milan crying. Beautiful city. Beautiful city. So, and it was 2010,
Okay.
end of 2010. And that's when I started working with Suit Supply, with this Dutch company.
Okay. So what were you doing for Suit Supply?
So Suit Supply was...
And that's like pre-growth too, right?
Yes,
like I
correct.
mean, must have been fairly small.
They were
Europe
only in north of Europe. So it's a Dutch guy, extremely smart guy. Probably the smartest guy I met in my life today.
Wow.
Young entrepreneurial that he built his first store on a gas station, on a parking lot of a gas station outside Amsterdam. Wow. And he would have received the suiting in these boxes. He would have opened the face of the box and he would have sold the box himself. The company was growing, no stores in Italy. Bureaucracy and taxes weren't very appealing.
Right.
So I helped opening the first store in Milan. If my English now is not the best, you could imagine how it was in 2010.
Okay. All right.
No English at all.
No kidding.
At all. And I was lucky enough to have met in Suit Supply this Sicilian guy that married a Dutch woman and moved to Holland, Franco De Martino.
Okay.
And he realized that I had that fire, you know. So
Right.
I spent a couple of months in the store in Milan, and they ship me. They sent me to Utrecht, Holland,
Okay.
Marco van Basten city, and I started working at the store in Utrecht, and I was selling a lot of suiting.
Nice.
You know, people trust the fact that I was Italian. So even if I couldn't communicate verbally,
Right.
I was
You
communicating.
knew what you were talking about.
And it
just
was, you know, I
because of
always
where you're
loved
from.
clothing. And,
Yeah, of course. The sprezzatura.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I started selling a lot of suits, and they sent me back to Milan as a manager of a store. And the owner, which I was lucky enough to work close to him, he noticed me, and he financed for me a master in sales and management, a private master in sales and management at the Utrecht Academy, which is a little structure owned by Bart Hemstra, this comportamentalist doctor. Actually, I will send you also the link of that because he's an incredible person. And that's where I probably really started understanding that, in a sense, the store or the company was the closest feeling I had to a soccer field.
Oh, okay.
You know,
Because of the competition.
more because of I was a midfielder. I was a number 10.
More
I
of
was
like a facilitator.
I was the equivalent of a quarterback in
Yeah.
soccer. So you are the guy that people look at it, and the feeling feed you or destroys you. And because of soccer was such of a violent, I had to stop playing and I didn't make it in my mind. In the store, wearing my suit, selling to people or training people or managing people, that was my game. That was the show.
That's the new game, right?
Bravo.
Right.
So people could see me in my new field,
I see.
and I could shine.
That's a really interesting comparison because I grew up playing baseball, and though I played soccer for a couple years, but I was really a baseball player as far as the team sports go. And I played like pretty much every position throughout my career. Like I was a pitcher, which kind of controls the game, but I also was a catcher. And those that really know baseball know the catcher is actually a very important position.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, he's calling the pitches and everything.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things too. I've never made that comparison to the selling tactics and experience inside of a retail store, because I too come from retail.
Yeah.
And that's remarkable comparison, because now I kind of even see that for myself.
Totally.
Where you're kind of calling your game
Yeah.
there on the floor, even as a retail manager.
Yeah, and I think we can really go further on that, but
Sure.
deep on that. But I think that society in general glorify the quarterback or the
Right.
midfielder or the
The pitcher.
the
right.
pitcher,
Right, right. The star of
the star.
of the team.
Correct. And you know, like, yes, so I very soon realized that as a young man that would have been my path. And Suit Supply, as a Dutch company, was moving fast and faster than what it would have been an Italian company. So they allowed me at a very young age to explore and to do. And when you work for a small company, even if that was a relatively small company, I think the benefit of that is that you will do a lot of things.
Yeah, the exposure.
Bravo.
So the different, aspects of the company.
And you kind of touching everything allows you
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
to go through that. And with them, I work in Milan, most probably all over around. I mean, back then the company had only UK and Holland, Netherlands, Germany, Belgium, with about 30 stores.
Mm-hmm.
So I was kind of, once
you're
I
kind
was
of
able
rotating.
to speak in English, actually. I was all over around that area. Spent a lot of time in London, where the company had these 3 stores. And then I went to, I experienced China with them. So
interesting.
I went there to open the first store in Shanghai. Beautiful city, beautiful place.
Awesome.
I regret not spending more time there. It was fantastic working with Chinese production, Chinese manufacturer people.
Sure.
Incredible. And, Shanghai is a nice playground.
Right, yeah.
Beautiful
big city.
Beautiful, beautiful big city. And I actually experienced China before the States. So when I arrived to New York, I wasn't that impressed,
Oh, interesting.
compared to what Shanghai was.
Well, it's
if
huge,
you look at a picture of Shanghai 30 years ago,
right,
and you look at a picture of Shanghai today, you would be impressed. New York it's been New York.
It's kind of been the same, yeah. You might implode one
years.
building, but then put up another one or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So I actually, at that point, I was living in Amsterdam. When I left Milano, I drove my motorcycle from Milan to Amsterdam.
Okay, so what kind of bike are we
I
talking?
had a Bonneville.
Okay, Bonneville.
I'm son of that wannabe Steve McQueen generation.
Yeah. Okay.
So I drove my Bonneville from Milan to Amsterdam. It took me 2 days. Probably the most stupid thing I at that point I was doing in my life. And after China and London, they proposed me to move to New York.
Oh, okay.
So here is 2013.
So you weren't impressed with the landscape necessarily, but like how was New York? How did that treat you compared to say Milan or somewhere?
What people I think I mentioned you there because I think there is a little bit of misinformation and miscommunication. People don't really know how impressing China has been
Right.
growing as a city, as a country.
Right.
What it was impressive to me, the gap between, in a city like Shanghai, you can see the old China and you can see the new China.
I see. Right.
So you can see people that can't read their own language.
Mm-hmm.
And when you navigate around the antique market in Shanghai or in Beijing or Hong Kong, and the new China, which is scary fast forward, kids
Right.
speak like 4 languages and 100 floors building and incredible facilities and highways. And
Yeah.
New York didn't have that to me. I couldn't see. I heard about the old New York time, like those 80s, those 90s. And I just saw a New York that was pretty much what it is today.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Brooklyn actually was developing faster. My first apartment was on Meserole between Union and not a nice part of Brooklyn.
Okay.
And I live with 3 guys. That's my 3 colleagues. And
And what year was this?
2013.
Okay, so this is like right at the beginning of like Williamsburg starting to grow and
Williamsburg wasn't yet
what it
as
is now.
developed
Yeah,
as it was now. I actually live after a couple of after that I met the president of Brunello, which is a Sicilian guy like me, which is another important guy with Brunello and Focke de Jong, the suit supply owner.
Sure.
For my career. So I joined Brunello Cucinelli and I moved to the city. So after living in the city, I moved to Brooklyn.
Right,
and I
right.
moved in South Williamsburg.
Okay.
So when I moved in South Williamsburg was probably 2015.
Okay.
And I lived there for 3 years. So, to your point, when I left Williamsburg is when Williamsburg was becoming Williamsburg.
Right, kind of booming.
That is today.
Yeah.
As soon as you see a Whole Foods and an Apple store, you know that is
right.
coming.
Oh, yes, of course, of course.
You know that is coming.
So what was your experience like at Cucinelli? I mean, that's one of my favorite brands of all time.
Cucinelli is another relatively big company,
right?
With a lot of with I would say family dynamics. You know,
right?
Brunello is incredible,
right?
And he's probably the closest. To give you an idea, it's probably the closest thing to Ralph Lauren.
I was just about to say that. Like
Brunello is probably the Italian Ralph Lauren.
Right.
Not in necessarily from an aesthetic perspective, but more on the way you approach business.
Yeah, I was like just the business. It just feels like Ralph.
He can really.
It is really a lifestyle, and there's like the dream world of Ralph. Like his dreams became reality through this clothing label, and I feel like was it Solomeo, right?
Solomeo.
Yeah, he's based in Solomeo.
I remember the first time when I joined the company, I was an account executive.
Okay.
So I started from the bottom again after growing in Suit Supply.
Right.
In Suit Supply, I kind of did from retail. I moved to corporate, product knowledge, training, excuse me, visual merchandising. I was a brand manager, so I was a dog with no leash. I was going all over the place.
Where did you spend the most of your time with Brunello?
At Brunello in New York. I was based in New York.
Was it in Soho or like at that store? Or?
No. The corporate office was in Midtown.
Okay, so you were working at corporate.
Back then, it was 57 and 5th on the 9 building.
Sure.
Where the Rizzoli was. I don't know if you remember the Rizzoli bookstore.
Yes.
That sadly got destroyed. Our office was right above.
Got it.
So after what I was able to do in Suit Supply, I started again from the bottom, and I started as account executive.
Right.
One day Brunello said to me, I was in Solomeo, and he's like, do me a favor, take this stuff in my car. And so I go in a parking lot, I got his key, I open his car, and I opened the very back of the car. And he had this beautiful leather bag, a soccer leather bag, in leather, with all his soccer gear. And he had he had this blanket and messy place, but you could see right there what the guy was about.
The quality, yeah.
And the back of a car, for me I'm like, okay, this guy.
He knows what he's doing.
No, but he's trying to communicate this to the world. His way to live, you know. So I think that, I had no doubt that he knew what he was doing, but it's when I saw the way he lived his life,
right,
that I started having a lot of admiration for him, because he translated that to the business. So with them, I mentioned the fact that they are a relatively big company, because in the United States corporate office, so you're looking about 50 to 60 people office, so less people.
Mm-hmm.
I was lucky enough to work very close to the president, and I was lucky enough to do a lot of things. So from sales, I went from account executive, which usually you sell to wholesale, so to buyers and department stores.
Right.
I moved to the retail corporate side, so Brunello Cucinelli stores, and I kind of did again what I did at Suit Supply. So I grew on the field of visual and visual, not only on the store side, but also what you will see it in editorials, magazine, and
sure,
blah 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 blah. And it was incredible. It was very formative.
Now, was his approach to wholesale similar to his approach to retail, as far as
as much as you can do it? Again, like Ralph Lauren, which I think it was the reason why a lot of brands developed like they did. I think Ralph Lauren invented visual merchandising.
Yeah,
I think
of course.
Ralph Lauren invented that impact, that idea of projecting you in Ralph's life.
It basically bridged the gap from shopping to an experience.
Correct.
You know?
And he also give you, on a deeper analysis, I always say Ralph Lauren sold America to the Americans.
Oh, 100%.
Brunello, in a sense, give to the people a different perspective of who an Italian man can look like.
Mm-hmm.
You know, before Brunello, the Italian man had the hair back, very slick, very like silky,
Right.
Napoleon tailoring. I think Giorgio Armani in the 80s with the American Gigolo
Right.
showed to the world what an Italian guy could look like, which was a little bit different than, you know, the idea that people had.
Just a little softer, I would say.
More sophisticated,
Yeah.
more refined, very, very, very chic. I have a funny story for you. I met Lauren Hutton
Oh, really?
on a laundry store in a laundry in Venice Beach when I moved here,
Oh, no kidding.
and I couldn't realize that was her. What
Right.
she looked like. And I'm trying these pants, this double pleated high-waisted pants from my father-in-law that I was altering to wear.
Okay.
So I walk outside with no shoes and I'm trying these pants, and she looked at me and is like, "Oh, those are beautiful pants." I'm like, "Thank you, madam." I'm like, "Who's this woman?"
Right.
And I'm changing pants again. And he hit me. I'm like, "That's Lauren Hutton." So I walk outside and I look at her and I'm like, "Madam, may I tell you something? You look just like Lauren Hutton." And she looked at me and she had the hair up with a baseball cap, a cotton sweater, Vans with no laces, pair of Levi's. Look gorgeous.
Probably amazing. Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And she looked at me and said, "Well, because I am Lauren Hutton." And I swear I became purple and I say to her, "Well, my mother and I watched the movie that I was about 11 and I fell in love with you, madam, tremendously." And he said to me, "Oh, like, you're so kind." He said, and she mentioned me how when the movie came out, you know, Richard Gere wearing Giorgio Armani and her with like the trench and the old Bottega Veneta bag, and
Right.
she really, we talked for a couple of minutes and she told me how the Italian style was. The whole crew was Italian.
Mm.
And Giorgio would style Richard Gere, you know, pretty magic. But
Right. That's
back
amazing.
to the point, I think that, yeah, Giorgio Armani first and then Brunello really showed to the world a different Italian approach to fashion.
Sure.
So I lost the point. I'm a talker, clearly.
It's okay. That's what these things are all about.
So yeah, with Brunello I was able to learn different side of the business.
So how did you get from New York to Venice Beach?
Good question. In 2017, the company had a very nice plan for me to move back to Italy.
Oh, okay.
So here I am after 5 years of crazy life in the States.
I
15
have
hours
a
day.
guess, but I'll let
Right.
you tell it.
You are a smart guy.
I have a guess what would make you do this.
So I was about to move back. And, you know, my parents were about the same age. So I think we experienced the time in life where your parents are getting old. And
Right.
you're like, my time to go back home.
Sure.
I was spending at that point a lot of time in Solomeo because of work. And I was traveling like crazy. I was on 3-4 plans a week.
Wow.
You know, single, having an accent in New York is a good thing.
Yeah. For
a
sure.
lot of fun.
Yeah.
So I'm ready to go back. To be honest, I was ready to go back to Italy and to move to Solomeo and to
Slow down. Yeah.
On the men's team. So Brunello has this. He has a men's team and a women's team, and you have these 7, 8, 10 guys that kind of live the dream.
Right. Right. They run the show.
And I met in 2016. Yes, I met my actual wife.
Yep. I knew it. Only a woman can make a man do things like this.
Correct. So I actually brought her to the village. We were dating, and it was Christmas 2017. During the trip, she met my parents. She saw where I grew up. You know, I don't like to use the word poor, but I grew up in a very humble environment.
Okay.
And she could see that. And then I think she realized really who I was. She met my mother and she met my father. My mother was still alive. And we went to Solomeo together. So we spent Christmas. I proposed to her during that Christmas. It was 2 years that we were together.
Now, how did you meet exactly?
I was living in New York. She moved from New York to LA.
Okay.
And I met her on Instagram. She popped on my Popular. I still had a personal Instagram back in 2016. And that's how we started. I slide on her DM.
No kidding.
Yeah. She's now wearing my child. She's pregnant. We're due in June.
That's unbelievable. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Sliding to the DMs.
That's very out of style, out of brand for me, but that's how it happened. And so she came to Solomeo and she saw the village and she said to me, I'm not moving here.
Wow.
Her father wasn't in good health and she didn't feel like leaving her family.
Okay.
And so in 2018, I rather having a wife than a job, and I gently refused Brunello's offer, and I rented a Suburban.
Okay.
I put all my stuff in, and I drove from Brooklyn to Venice Beach. I left on a Thursday night and I arrived in Venice on a Saturday night.
You did it in 48 hours.
Yeah, and I slept in the car. So I stopped the first night. I stopped in Pennsylvania, slept in the car, and I was an idiot because it was February.
Oh, it's freezing.
And at night I didn't left the car on.
Right,
so
of course.
I'm waking up like a 4 shaking, snow outside the window. And I drove, the second day I drove pretty much all in the middle, I crossed pretty much everything. And I stopped at 1 a.m. That day in Texas, I believe.
Right.
And then the second day, 66 straight.
Oh, yeah.
Dream trip. I wish I had more time. But
Yeah, I took 8 days to do it.
there we go.
From North Carolina.
That's the right way.
But, 48 hours, that's aggressive.
And I arrived in Venice Beach, and
that's where she was living at the time?
we had this little bungalow there. And I'm not gonna lie to you, the first 6 months was brutal.
Yeah, I hear. So there's like an expression, right? Like where if you can make it 6 months in LA, you're probably not going to leave. But that's the marker, is like 6 months. Yeah.
Depressed. I was extremely depressed. And I lived 10 minutes to the beach.
From the beach, right.
And
right.
I didn't go once.
No kidding.
So here I am at home, and my wife would leave for work. And I was there. And I'm like, what am I doing here? I went from a very frenetic business schedule.
Yeah.
Opening stores at night and meeting people every 2 days, a different city, different people.
Right.
And representing a brand that at this point was, I really admired the man. So I was trying to I was trying to apply the same approach to that job.
Right.
So here I am moving to California with a closet full of like cashmere coats and turtleneck sweaters.
Right, of course.
Wearing both shoes with no laces and like sweatpants, like and Vans and Dickies. And so I seriously, that probably was in an adult age, was the hardest time.
Right.
Because I, quite honestly, and this is 2018, I didn't know what it would be professionally. Because when in the industry you work for a company like Brunello, first of all, people think you will never leave the company. Why?
Right. Why would you leave that?
Anybody in the market, they allow you to live the life. And I'm like, what am I going to do it? And during my road trip, actually, something hit me. I'm like, because of the relation that I have with Brunello, I didn't feel like rebuilding the relation with another guy.
Right.
You know, I couldn't go to now working for, I don't know, maybe Tom Ford, and wearing a Tom Ford suit and said, oh, Tom Ford is the best.
Right.
It just didn't feel right. So I started Gaia.
If you haven't heard episode 1 of the Standard H podcast, then let me tell you about my friend Tim Jackson. As owner of Passion Fine Jewelry, Tim and his team specialize in fine jewelry, as well as some of the finest independent watch brands available. I'm talking about Groenfeld, Habring, Kudoki, Roger Smith, Roman Gauthier, Sarpaneva, the list goes on. The staff at Passion Fine Jewelry is literally made up of friends and family, so you will feel right at home if and when you visit. If California is out of reach, you can absolutely email or call the shop and they'll get you sorted. Visit passionfinejewelry.com for more information. As you all know, I'm a huge fan of using the right product for the right job, and like many of you, I appreciate products with a story. That's why I drive a Volkswagen GTI. It's a hot hatch with heritage. It's also why I'm into specific watches like my Tudor Black Bay. And that's exactly why I'm a fan of the indie accessory brand Cantonment. Cantonment makes a utilitarian cloth they simply call a kerchief. It's smaller than a standard bandana, but larger than a handkerchief, which makes it ideal to tuck in a back pocket or use as a neckerchief. I always take one on a bike ride or have one with me as a backup face covering. Not only do these kerchiefs satisfy several functions, but they look great too. Each set features illustrations celebrating icons of product design like the Omega Speedmaster, the Fender Stratocaster, or my favorite of course, a classic GTI. Follow them on Instagram at Cantonment Co. That's CantonmentCo, or visit them at cantonment.co. And use the code STANDARDH in all caps, no spaces, for 20% off of absolutely everything in their online shop. Now let's get back to the show. What was the approach from like a manufacturing standpoint?
It was terrible. It was very hard because when I left Brunello, my visa, my working visa was linked to that. So my wife and I got married March 2018 for the first time. We had a little ceremony. And I wait for almost, for more than a year and a half for my green card and my working permit. So Gaia was, to me, a very nice way to, it felt right. I'm like, this might be the time in life when I pick this path.
Sure.
And it was extremely hard for me to do anything that wasn't Brunello.
Right.
Creatively, and my taste and my the way I saw clothing at that point was very linked to the company.
Right, of course.
And I couldn't do that. So it took me about like 6 to 8 months to take that out of my system. And what I realized is that it took me a year to live here and being and evolving in who I am today. You know, when you make clothes, all you do is evolving.
Right.
I never throw away my shoes because, so I have hundreds pair of shoes all over around my house. I will send you a picture so you will, because shoes are what men with watches can express who they are unconsciously. Put a watch, you put a pair of shoes, is who you want to be that day.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And so I never throw away shoes because through shoes I could see the path of evolution that I had. So I was a young kid, and then a young kid wearing suits, very formal. And then I went to the stage of Stephen McQueen wannabe, so boots and Clark, and then I realized that after a year I was detox.
Right.
Now it was me. So when I started producing stuff, designing stuff, and producing stuff, it was me coming out. Back to your point, which was manufacture, because I wasn't able to travel to Italy, I built my first collection all remotely. So during a trip to Italy that I did right before, I had a 30 30 days permit, 30 days parole, because my mother got diagnosed with cancer.
Oh, no.
So in those 30 days, I was able to go to Sicily, and I was able to find production.
Okay. So your stuff's all produced in Sicily?
All my stuff is produced in Italy.
Okay.
Middle of Italy. Sicily doesn't have knitwear production. And I wanted to start with knitwear because in clothing, knitwear is technically the hardest thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Suggestion for anybody wanting to start a business, I would not start doing
Don't
knitwear.
start with knitwear.
It's hard. There are not those many technicians. It's hard to do technically something that fit right.
Right.
So here
now,
I am.
did you?
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt
No,
you.
please.
Did you have any sort of model sweater or anything that you used as like a bought sample kind of
I
thing?
had more than I mean, at this point, working 5 years for Brunello, I had a lot of sweaters, but more than that, I wasn't focused on one model.
Mm-hmm.
I was more focused on the feeling. I think sweaters in clothing really allow you to be a different guy.
Kind of like shoes.
Correct.
Yeah, I heard somebody say once, and I think this is brilliant, because your shoes can change who you are every day, because based on how you walk in them, it will totally change the way you walk. You know, the way you walk in sandals is going to be completely different than a pair of tassel firm loafers from, say, like, you know, or John Lobb shoes or anything like that.
It's super, that's actually super smart. I never thought myself about
Yeah, because it'll,
thank
and it's the same for women, especially like traditionally dressed in different levels of heel. You know, the different height will totally change the way you walk.
Make totally sense.
And it'll play with your brain subconsciously.
Absolutely.
So you were more wrapped in like the tactile, the feeling of the fabric.
No, more not on a physical feeling.
Okay.
I was stuck on the emotional feeling.
Okay.
So you put a short cardigan with leather button, and you feel like McQueen or James Dean, you know, like white tee.
Sure.
And as Italian, I think this is a human nature. You know, Americans dream Italy and Italians dream America in a sense.
Really? Okay.
So as a young kid, I grew up with, my mother was born in 1950.
Mm-hmm.
So I grew up watching all the Americans movie.
Sure.
So like, you know, American Gigolo and The Graduate and Serpico and Bullet. And so what you do, you build your idea of what America was. And California, more than New York or Florida or any other place that I've been in America, was matching the American dream that I had as a kid.
Interesting. Yeah.
So here I am. When I moved to Venice, I found this old Alfa Romeo, this old Spider, owned by this French guy, George, that lived in Venice. Iconic guy. He had this car abandoned in his garage. He's like, I can't drive it no more. So I rebuilt this car.
Amazing.
Which is still rusty, and it's like me, you know, has a lot of dents. Matched paint, like some
what
parts
color
doesn't
is
match. It's a butter Spider.
Okay.
And, you know, I would have put a sweater and driving the car in Pasadena, and I felt I would have feel different based on what I was wearing.
Yeah, sure.
In sweater. And I can't wear sweater that often. You know, making cashmere sweater in Southern California is not necessarily the smartest move. But back to the point, I knew exactly what I want you to feel when you wear the sweater.
Right.
And for some reason, like the t-shirt you're wearing or like the chino, like there are items, there are companies, there are brands that once you put on, even if you don't have a mirror,
right,
somehow that day you feel a little bit more special.
Yeah.
You feel more cool. You feel more...
Well, that's what clothes does, right? Like a lot of people think it's just about superficiality.
I think that not all the designers are able to do that.
Right, sure. But when you find your niche, you know, and you find that brand that resonates with you,
totally,
it brings out you.
Totally. And you know, like...
Now, whether or not that's like a band's t-shirt, you know, like for if you're into punk rock or something,
totally,
like you can...
the
or a
printed,
Metallica t-shirt.
Totally.
or
Totally.
a cashmere
sailing
sweater.
or a cashmere or a cotton sweater or whatever it is. But
Yeah, of course.
we all leave our home with you know who you want to be today.
Mm-hmm.
Now I don't know you, but since we met about an hour ago, I've been building my idea of who you are.
Sure.
And the baseball and your watch and your beautiful golf and but it's true, like your baseball hat. And now I have my idea of who you are. So if I should sell you something, we might have an idea of what you would like to buy from me. And that's selling. And everything related to selling, either it's visual merchandising or branding or marketing, we can call it with fancier name, but it's still selling something.
Yeah,
so
of course.
I had the intuition of what I wanted my sweater to feel like. But it was very hard to realizing it because I couldn't go to Italy. So here I am, my lab where they sent me, after I met the guy once, and I shared with him what I wanted to build. We started working remotely because I had to go back to United States once my parole was done. And it was very frustrating, because it took me a year to develop zips, button, the way the feeling, and before even go to colors and to models and SKU and other things, I had to start it from scratch.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I'm actually, this worked out to record today because I'm picking up the first drop, I guess, of my new t-shirts.
Wow.
That I've been developing for almost 2 years.
Congratulations.
Now, granted, COVID had a lot to do with the delay, but everything from the neck label to the trims to the actual thickness of the fabric,
the way it
the material,
the way it sits on you,
the fit,
the way it look,
of course, the color again, all of that. It's a line of pocket tees. So even the shape of the pocket's different. The size of the pockets.
And t-shirts are iconic items. It seems like a simple thing. For some reason, when you meet the guy with the right t-shirt, you're like, damn, that was a good t-shirt.
Yeah,
when I go back home, I want to buy a t-shirt.
Yeah, because you can layer it. There's another thing, I mean, it serves more than one purpose.
T-shirt like jeans and...
I don't need to sell you a t-shirt right now, but...
I mean, hopefully I will get mine.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, so...
when... I want to touch on kind of the actual fabric.
Well,
the name. Well, yeah. Let's start with the name then.
Please. No, go ahead. The fabric. Go ahead.
Well, how is the fabric developed, and where do you get? So for cashmere, for example.
So we work with tree yarn.
Okay.
To make it easy for you, what I wanted to do, at this point of my life, I knew how a buyer would buy something because I was selling it, and I did it for so long.
Right.
So I knew what a buyer approach would be. So, you can do too much of romances without finances. So I was looking at something that would be what I wanted to be as a brand, but that would be, that couldn't move, that could grow as a business. So I started with 5 models. 30 colors. Cashmere, 100% cashmere. Fine gauge, so leggerissimo, cashmere silk.
Okay.
And cotton. Cotton more than cashmere was allowing me to express that emotion, the feeling that I wanted to. Because everything I loved at that point, knitwear-wise, was related to cotton in a sense. Cotton jersey or, like, starting from the sweatshirt, going to the fisherman sweater, the turtleneck sweater. And in California, you can wear cotton more than you can do cashmere because it's more breathable, it's lighter. So cashmere and fine gauge are animal yarn. They come from an animal.
Right.
Goats part, or the part of the animal that should only be treated for good quality cashmere are the belly, the chin. And what people don't realize, because, I think today the consumers are more informed thanks to social media, but sometimes there are parts missing. And that's why in the market you have $100 cashmere sweaters and you have $3,000 cashmere sweater. It's not only the lab that is on it, the tag that is on it, but the label that is on it, but it is where you get your yarn most of the time, and how expensive it is to make it. Made in Italy products are extremely, extremely costly to make.
Sure.
Manufacture is super expensive.
Now, I think Brunello Cucinelli, he has farms in Mongolia, right?
So Brunello, as a company, doesn't own his own farms.
Oh, I see.
The only brand that has that is Loro Piana.
Okay.
Now, we should not talk about competitors.
Right, of course.
Or other brands.
Right,
I don't consider
right.
myself
Sure.
a competitor yet, but you touch the point. So cashmere supplier, for instance, I buy my cashmere from a company called Cariaggi, which is a company that sells cashmere to Brunello and that sells cashmere to other big brands.
I see.
Zane, Tom Ford, or whatever it would be the case.
But it's important to know that because you're getting the same raw material.
For a same, and I will go even deeper on that without taking too much of time. North of China, Mongolia, as you mentioned, those are locations where temperatures are very low.
Right.
So if you think who's gonna live in Mongolia on a
something warm
goat on a goat farm,
yeah,
these are parts of the world where there are not those many people living in it, and because of that, not those many people that want to do that. The temperature allow the animal to have a specific air. But what I was saying before, if you extract the air from the right part of the animal,
mm-hmm.
you allow the animal to have a better life. The animal is no stress. And cashmere, as our hair, the more you cut, the thicker it becomes. If you extract the air from the wrong part of the animal, which could be the back or the neck, excuse me. So cheaper cashmere sweaters are extracted most of the time. Wall Street Journal wrote a very fascinating article last year about it. So like where the hair is coming, what part of the animal is treated, how the animal lives, how many times the animal is subjected to that.
Right, sure.
So when you work with companies that have certifications on where the yarn is come, where the hair is coming, and how the animal lives, then we don't produce those many sweaters.
Right, right.
So I'm still able to really go to the top. And
so you started with 5. Well, let's touch on the name.
Yeah.
Where does the name come from?
The name Ghiaia is a stone. Ghiaia is a Mediterranean stone. It's a stone that it's like a pebble, a gravel, but it's very smooth and it's a beautiful color. So in the south, Italian, on the East Coast, Taormina, Giardini, Naxos, sorry, we do have those stones. So I kind of grew up with the stones under my feet.
Okay.
I like the color. I like the texture. It's very smooth. It's nice. It's a nice feeling. And I think unconsciously I choose a term that was very familiar to my childhood and to me. And that was kind of the beginning, starting from the ground.
Yeah, sure.
Here I am again. I'm 30. I don't know what is going to be on my professional life.
Mm-hmm.
So let me start from the ground. Let me start where I've been putting my feet all my life.
So that's amazing.
My first, the comment that my wife had first was like, "That's so hard to pronounce it,
right?"
And that's too dramatic, Emotionally, that's such of a dramatic. So I'm like, yeah, but I like it the way I designed the logo, and I like it the way, as simple as it is. I like it the way, I like it the way it look.
Yeah.
And 6 letters, so balance-wise, it was very nice.
Yeah, of course.
So I started messing with the name, and what I did under my tag, you will find an extreme spelling pronunciation.
Oh, right.
So if you read it in American, it actually will sound like
the phonetic.
The phonetic
spelling of it, sure.
So I spell it Gheiyia. So one day I go to my mother-in-law, I'm like, "Mom, how do you read this?" And she was like, Ghiaia. I said, exactly, that's what I needed, Mom. Thank you. And yeah.
Well, we're sitting in the space that is becoming your store.
Correct.
Now, is this your first store?
This will be our first store.
The very first.
So the brand, we started with Neiman Marcus.
Okay.
wholesale distribution, exclusively distributed by them. And then we built our e-commerce pre-COVID, 2020. Thank God.
Did you build your website or
Yes.
did you hire somebody out?
The website, I did the most stupid thing you could do. I had somebody make it for me, custom. Because I didn't want that be a platform. Like, I didn't want that be something. I had an exact idea how I like it.
Right.
So I built it with somebody. Again, very stupid. Don't do that.
It's expensive.
It is extremely expensive. And I realize also that it's all about codes. And when it comes to technology, I'm an idiot.
So if you want to change something, you have to reach out to them to change it for you.
All the time.
That was a lesson that I learned very early on.
Doing your
And do it yourself, because if you ever want to change something,
if you can do it,
you can do it yourself.
But I'm pretty much of the president, the vice president, I'm the CEO, I'm the creative director, I'm
The janitor.
art director, the stock guy. So I ship myself. So it's like, I wanted to develop the way. And when COVID started, in a week, I remember going to New York for Men's Market, and in the first week of March, it crumbled. I saw the order getting canceled.
Right.
And that was the year. I'm like, listen, after 2 years of doing this, I was getting new clients.
I was
nice
in New York
orders.
the same week.
There we go.
That's crazy. So when you go into a business and you start it with Neiman Marcus being your first customer, that's like hitting a home run in your first at bat, right?
It is, but it is the good and the bad. I remember the first time going to Dallas with I had these 2 military duffel bag, and I put all my sample there, and I went there with my wife, and she's in the room, and like the president and vice president, big guys in the room, and the vice president had a very nice compliment. He gave me a very nice compliment. He said, like, I remember this guy standing just like that, dirty sweater, and his name was Brunello, because he was there when Brunello first sold to Bergdorf Goodman,
right,
about 25 years ago.
Sure.
And we got this big order, first order, exclusively to them. So I because of the relation that I had with Neiman Marcus, working so many years with them, they were kind enough. Another key guy, his name is Bruce Allos, one of my mentor.
Sure.
He was at Neiman's at that point, and he was like, bring whatever you're doing, we're gonna support it.
Incredible.
Trust you. So big pressure on him. Me and my wife, I remember leaving the room crying. I'm like,
this is unbelievable.
It became real.
Yeah.
So started production, and I built my brand pretty much around wholesale at that point. So when you do that, you sacrifice a lot of margins. You sacrifice, and already producing in Italy, you are.
It's thin.
We can have this out of record, but it's not that profitable. And you sacrifice everything to show. I think America is the market of quality.
Right.
People trust you when they buy an item that live a long life. And so I had the pressure of doing what I wanted to do, doing it in the right way.
Mm-hmm.
So I compromise everything. Still these days, I don't have a salary myself.
Right.
And that was my goal. It's like, if I can, on a wholesale floor, propose you a product with a certain quality and a feeling that is going to sit next to the big guy's name,
right,
then I accomplish my mission. So
now, what are your price points for cashmere?
Way more affordable. We are a little bit more affordable for the same reason that, I don't have employee on my paycheck, and
right, of course,
I'm by myself. So my idea was to have something that felt done by me, so by a younger man in a different stage of his life, with a more affordable price, of course. But when on a wholesale floor, I would have proposed you the famous crew neck navy cashmere sweater. I had to fit and feel the right way.
Mm-hmm.
So when I started to visiting Neiman Marcus stores, when I ship my first order to them. It was fall, August 10, and I remember because August 11 is when I remarried my wife.
Oh, no kidding.
And it's my birthday.
Oh, that's
so I spent all August 10 at the new UPS facility downtown, trying to have everything ready for custom, to not make mistake. The sweater were shipping from Italy to Dallas,
right,
Texas. But back to the point, the model of the company was built around wholesale.
Mm-hmm.
And now, with the wholesale not being there, I had to turn and starting the e-commerce. So, again, I rent a studio. I brought all my clothes with my sweater, and I started styling them on some friends. And with Justin Chang, this extremely talented photographer.
Mm-hmm.
My opinion, for his age, probably the most talented the most talented eye that I ever worked with.
Wow.
And I met Justin when I was at Suit Supply 10 years ago, and during this GQ party in Amsterdam with no budget. Fantastic time. We private flew there. Incredible. I re-met him in 2018, and I asked him if he would shoot for me.
Right.
The guy's like, let's do it. So I started shooting on film, and I started shooting, photo shooting, people that gave me something.
Right.
People that would transmit me, I gotta know you for you to be a Gaia guy, a Gaia profile. And I started this idea of Gaia stories. So building the brand or the community around people that you could relate to.
Sure.
Not necessarily famous people on the most vulgar
well, that's not relatable.
term.
Yeah.
Bravo. But more like what you do, who you are, how your family look like, what you stand for.
Right.
And there are a lot of cool guys in California, so
sure,
it was easy to do it. But also, I wanted the brand to be diverse and to be who I am in a sense. You know, I'm been a gypsy for 10 years. I'm a dog with no breed, we say in Italy, you know?
Right, a mutt.
Because I come from anyway. Nothing would bring me to fashion if I didn't wanna, and nothing would bring me to luxury cashmere sweater. You know, I think I give you enough frame to understand that. So I wanted something that felt who I was, you know, and so all the guy, if you go through it, the stories are very different, and they all have something to say. So the storytelling was something that I felt very important to brand and communicate what I was to communicate. So
sure,
we started the brand, and when COVID hit, we were very hurt.
Right.
So I actually canceled. All the other clients canceled themselves, but Neiman's didn't. And I remember the day that I had to call saying that I couldn't produce it on my way,
right,
on my side, and that I had to cancel their order. I put all the resources that I had at that point, you know, asking favor and raising some capital to start the e-commerce, and here we are. We passed that. That we were able to restructure the brand and making it walking through this time and making past this time. Sorry, and in December I discovered the Burlington Arcade in Pasadena, and Carmela, my daughter, will be born in June, so she kicked me out of the house without even being born yet.
Right,
my
because
office.
Yeah, it was in her future bedroom.
Where her future bedroom will be. So I found this little arcade with my wife. As you can see, you are sitting in it. It's a room. It's a little box. But I think that I'm very excited because it will allow me to materialize for people what I like it and what Gaia is.
Well, you are across the arcade from Contessa.
Exactly. Yeah,
which is
Luisa.
An Italian foods shop.
Yes.
Is it legit?
It is. It is. Luisa is from Tuscany.
Wonderful.
And that's a boutique. That's probably, you might spend more going there than coming here. No, but
no kidding,
it's
really?
Legit,
they have like olive oil and like
a fantastic product. Pasta,
yeah.
So when I found this, and I have a barber next door. So when I found this, I kind of, it was the dream. Like I spent a lot of time walking through the Burlington Arcade in London.
Sure.
And this guy in the 80s built this twins structure. I don't know. He thought it was a good idea doing it.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like the exact same thing in London.
So we have a watch guy actually upstairs, which is a very dangerous neighbor to have.
What? Who's upstairs?
The watch is called Watch Buyer Group.
Watch Buyer Group. Okay.
Which operates on the Chrono 24 platform.
Got it. So you've mentioned watches several times.
Probably.
You're wearing something that is a smaller case.
Yes.
It looks like a 36 millimeter. It may even be 34.
It's smaller than, exactly.
Yeah, I was going to say it actually looks more like 34.
This is
what are you wearing right now?
Is a 94 400 mini sub by Tudor. It's an 80s. I wear it for you today.
Oh, yeah?
Because I think that, hands down, this is the most beautiful watch I own today.
It's super nice. It's small. It's on a NATO strap that's kind of on like a khaki.
Yeah, it was only
sort of
produced on the 80s, between the 80s and the 90s. It went very soon out of production. I think what I like about watches, I like watch with an history, of course.
Sure.
And I like watch that had a specific use. I am an island guy. So my father was a free diver.
No kidding.
He's cardiopathic. Unfortunately, he had an heart attack. He has a bypass a few years ago. So he stopped doing it, but he used to free diving. And what people don't, and somebody that I consider iconic, this guy, Enzo Mallorca.
Okay.
Enzo Mallorca was a world record free diver. I don't know if you ever watched Le Grand Bleu.
I haven't seen it.
With a Besson movie.
Okay.
I suggest you to watch it tonight.
Yeah, okay.
Jacques Reno is Enzo Mallorca in this movie.
Yeah.
The movie is shot in Sicily. Enzo was, I think for what he did, he was world record in apnea for a long, long time.
Right.
I think he still has one record.
Oh, that's incredible.
And his daughters, Rossana and Patrizia, were also divers. Iconic guy. If I could shoot today somebody for Gaia, I would probably give you 3 names, and none of them is alive, and one of them is Enzo Mallorca.
Right. So when did you buy this watch?
I bought this watch 2 years ago.
Okay.
As you can see, it has a bleach dial. It's a little bit faded.
Yep.
But I don't know if you ever had one of those in your hands. But my first big watch was a Submariner Hulk.
Okay.
The 1116 LV, like it's a long reference. I don't want to make mistake, but that was my first big watch. That it didn't turn to be a good idea buying it. I had to resell it a few years after.
Okay.
It's a bad story that I don't want to share with you.
Right.
Sad story. But
we'll have to have dinner sometime, and you could tell
me. I will love it. I will come visiting you. But the way it sits on your hand, I think is a beautiful object. It's because it's small. I don't know. There is something that I find extremely.
It has so much character
about this watch.
Yeah, it has a lot of character.
The idea of Tudor was to produce something that was quality-wise a Rolex.
Yeah, of course.
But more affordable to people.
Absolutely.
So without going too dramatic again, but I really associate probably this watch to what I do today.
Yeah, it sounds kind of like what you're describing that you wanted to do.
Something with a lot of character, as you said, and that feels right, and that looks right, and that works right. Is in those years, like Rolex, which is today the company that in luxury produce the highest number of watches per year.
Sure.
Correct me if I'm wrong. You probably know more than
I mean,
do.
I think they do close to 1 million watches a
Correct.
year. Yeah, I mean,
more than any other luxury watch brand, still maintaining, more than. I will not mention the quality because I think we could we would need another couple of hours to talk about that. But
the brand equity is still there.
Bravo, and the idea, I think Rolex like Nike, like Apple is one of those companies that can communicate to you a lot with the picture of a man without telling you necessarily how the watch is done.
Absolutely. So
a crown for every success is a beautiful slogan. I'm not paid, by the way, to say that.
Right.
If you think about, you think Rolex, you think Martin Luther King, you think Paul Newman, you think Che Guevara, you think people that, in good or bad, were extremely impactful to humanity.
Right. What are you driving these days? No
now
longer the Mini Cooper.
Now the funny part of the interview is coming. I do have a beautiful is a Grand Edition 2005 G-Wagon.
Oh, beautiful. Is that the one I parked next to? Oh, it's a gorgeous color.
It is the last series of handmade G-Wagon.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
So Mercedes wanted to call production of G-Wagon in the States in 2005.
Mm-hmm.
And they decided to call it with 500 pieces of the car. We all know that the story didn't go how they wanted to be, because they still sell G-Wagon, of course, in the United States, but that was the last series of handmade G-Wagon.
Very cool.
I'm a big fan of Wagon. Probably the most beautiful car I ever owned was 1995 long wheelbase Range Rover.
Sure.
Soft dash.
Sure.
Probably the most beautiful car I ever been in it. It blew up in the highway. I rebuilt it and something didn't go right, and my engine exploded. The car melted on the 134 at noon.
No kidding.
So after that, I went for a V90 Volvo.
Yeah, of course.
Incredible car.
So I think, honestly...
Yeah, it's a mom car, but I think
the Volvo wagon, it is the most underrated car on the planet.
Totally agree with you. Extremely agree with you.
My mother-in-law has, I think it's the Cross Country, actually. And I love that car.
Incredible car.
But I'm a wagon fan. It's a very European thing.
I agree.
Right? Like, to know, like, the RS6 Audi is like the dream car for so many people in Europe.
Totally.
And it just goes over the head of most
brought it
Americans.
Here. I don't know if you saw it.
Finally, yes. So when are you looking to open the store? When is the store due to open, you think?
I'm receiving the table tonight. I have the electrician tomorrow once again, and the carpenter on Saturday. Joking aside, I hope in the next 2 weeks.
In the next 2 weeks?
Ready to the
And did you paint in here?
I did.
You did. I love
that.
No. I just because it looks like fresh paint.
I'm joking. Yes, I painted and I had. It is a boat upside down. I don't know if that makes sense to you.
Right. Yeah. It does have like a nautical sort of theme. Where does the burgundy stripe come from?
I don't know. I just
like the color.
It came down to the Pantone that I use for my logo.
Okay.
So blue Ghiaia and made in Italy would be in burgundy. But that line remind me of an old Riva in a sense. Like he had something that in my mind because I had to make this ceiling dark because it's terrible. It's one of those office panels that I hate.
Right.
There's nothing worse than this in construction. So it took me 2 gallons of paint only to have the panels to absorb the paint.
Right.
So I had the heights. This ceiling is awkwardly higher than you can realize it is. So with this friend of mine, architect, is an architect, Giorgio Zuffanti. he gave me the tip to bring the color that I would use to make the ceiling dark a little bit lower to visually bring that, making it more cozy and bring the visual heights down.
Right.
So now it feels, with the direct lights and the spots and warmer colors, it feels, these are Muto lamps. So this is rubber.
Oh, no kidding.
It's a Scandinavian brand.
That's
that I
super
love.
cool.
I have those old Louis Poulsen yellow spot. Louis Poulsen is this Scandinavian designer, that iconic designer that I sold in one of my first jobs.
Oh, that's fun.
So-
Yeah, from your lighting sales job.
I scouted those.
Oh, that's
and,
amazing.
yeah, I have almost all the pieces. I got
That's
the
great.
magazine. I got my cafe vetrinette. I found this little piece on a chapel on Lincoln Heights,
No kidding.
on an old chapel.
Wow.
Believe it or not, that now is a commercial production company.
Oh my gosh, that's
So
so
this
funny.
was sitting in there. I found it on Craigslist, and so I collected the pieces. And the chair where you are sitting probably will be part of the store.
Yeah, of course.
But
Maybe for the wife to sit down and wait
Exactly.
for her husband to finish.
exactly, with the belly, and with my daughter in it.
Well, Davide, this has been super fun. I really
Thank you.
for inviting me into the
Absolutely.
shop.
It's a
I
pleasure.
can't wait to see the finished product.
I can't wait to have you here. You are the second person that I invite here. Actually, the third. But the first person seeing here was Matt.
Matt Horanek, yeah, former podcast guest.
Yeah,
Now, how do
exactly.
you know Matt?
So I met Matt when I was working at Brunello. He was a traveler.
Sure.
Condé Nast. We did an event
Doing photos.
in this store in Soho. And we met, and I met him and I met Yolanda.
Yeah, of course.
Fantastic people.
Yes.
A man of a very, very smart man. Great taste. Very informed man. Very, more than interesting, I would say interested.
Well, that's what he'll say
interested man.
too. Yeah, rather than being the most interesting
yeah.
man, he wants to be
Very
the most
interested. Very,
interested.
very smart. So they came both here during their trip here to California. They came to the house, we had a coffee, and then we came here.
Oh,
And,
that's wonderful.
Yeah. And you are the second.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Thank you.
This
Thank
is
you for
so
coming.
great, and
Thank you for coming here.
I really appreciate it. I will certainly keep you posted on when this comes
Thank
out.
you. Can't wait.
It'll probably be like a month or something.
Can't
like
wait.
that. Because I go every other week, so it'll be a few weeks.
Do you hate listening yourself, or how it works?
Funny, I was just talking about this recently, and at first I did. Like I hated the sound of my own voice. But now
I ask you for that reason, because every time I record something, I feel.
Yeah, like most people are self-conscious to hear themselves, but yeah, it's funny because like now it's just another voice in the edit, because when I'm cutting everything and editing together, it's like, well,
So you do by yourself as well?
oh, I am a one-man band.
There you go.
All of my design, my
There you go.
hats, my t-shirts, my shorts, everything is
I would like it to say this now on record. I think you're doing a fantastic job.
Oh, well, thank you. I sincerely appreciate that.
And I mean it. I will not say it otherwise.
But I can say that I'm just now starting to produce the type of products that I've been wanting to do for the last several years.
I
So
understand that.
it took a while to get here. Less this and more of this.
I like the logo.
And yeah, the logo's fun. So that'll have its own collection called the Garage Collection.
Okay.
But the new collection, the t-shirts I mentioned before, are the Signature Collection. So,
Nice.
Something
Very
a little
nice.
cleaner, a little more upscale.
I will not suggest you to make clothes, but you are already in there. So
yeah,
like,
I was going to say,
I can drive you out of the thoughts. But
well, and it's funny because like yesterday I got the bill for the production, and guess what? You know how they just nickel and dime you for everything. It's like if you're not meeting this minimum for this color,
course.
it's an extra $150.
And you creatively don't realize that. That's why I mentioned no romances with no finances, because you are in the creative process,
Yes.
and you are so excited, and you go and go. And then when you face those bills,
well, it's crazy because it's
Bring
just
you
kind
together.
of like it, and you don't think about the cost. Like I hosted another business owner. He started Lecole. It's a cycling company.
Yeah.
His name's Yanto Barker. And Yanto said, you know what? I just wanted to produce.
You ride? Did you have a bicycle?
I do. Yeah.
Let's do it together. I have a bicycle too.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, we should totally ride. So what Yanto was saying is like, don't tell me what it costs to make like the sample. He's like, I want to make the item first and then scale it. And you just make it as good as you can.
Correct. And sometimes you have, unfortunately, to sacrifice.
Right. Sure.
And that's also the reason why I believe today brands and people are always more willing to, to have big group to come into the equation.
Sure.
Because
no, absolutely
allows you to maybe as a person to develop more once you have somebody that supports you on that. It gives you the structure and the hard dollars.
Yeah, exactly.
Davide,
Davide, thank you again.
Thank you for having me. It has been a pleasure. Thank you.
We have bike rides to go on.
Bike rides. I'm waiting for my first t-shirt. You will get your first sweater probably, and so we have a lot of things. Carmela coming. We have a lot of exciting things coming.
Wonderful. I'm excited for you.
Thank you.
All right. Ciao.
Ciao, ragazzi.
I'd like to thank all of you for listening, as well as to Davide, of course, for taking the time. If you have a moment, please rate and review the show. It has much more of an impact than you would even realize. As always, big shout out to Jensen Reed and Super Beautiful for the theme track, as well as to Clear Audio for providing the noise cancellation headphones. Catch you guys in another 2 weeks' time for the last episode of Season 4. Take care, everyone.